Hey. Alright. Yeah, I really needed to make this video. Just to fucking make it. You like that cheesy shirt? I bet you do. But, yeah, I don't know. I need water, and food and all that shit, but I'm not really working off of, you know, like what I want to be working off of. I'm just kind of like fucking doing what other people want to do and all this fucking shit just to appease, you know, the masses, maybe like the master missus that is just like, you know, fucking me over, you know, like shout out to the MGTOW community and all that stuff, or, you know, kind of like sort of leading me like along the way, like, you know, some good MGTOW people out there like Fester the MGTOW and, you know, other people like that. I also don't want to like look at myself and, you know, I want to look into the camera and all that stuff, you know, to actually try to have like, some real communication with people and all that stuff. So, I'll try to be quick and thorough and to the point and everything, but, you know, I just don't know how we can talk about anything else other than, basically the richest of the rich people. And I'm not talking about like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, but like the people who are, far more richer than them. I mean, it's pretty apparent that something is, truly wrong with like the state of, the world and everything. I mean, if you have access to the internet or, TV, I mean, you can easily tell that just by watching, 5 minutes of cable television or something on YouTube that is trending or something like that. I mean, especially if you have schooling and everything like that. I mean, I don't even know what they could possibly be teaching in school these days. Like, I know for a fact I wasn't being taught in school. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't being taught like there's, you know, 30,000 children starving every day, or nothing was really about, I think what Republicans like to call it is like progressive politics or progressive solutions, not like aggressive solutions and all that stuff, which is something I would rather get into than like progressive politics. I mean, like progressive politics is looked at as like, you know, something that is trying to end basically humanity, and just like leave the world as what was once, or what it was once going to be. But I mean, nothing can ever be the same after, not really so much as a destruction, or I mean, I would rather use that word destruction, I mean, personally, but, oh shit, well, yeah, I'm gonna go for like a little bit longer, cause, I mean, whether or not I have plans or whatever, I mean, it doesn't really fucking make a difference. Like, you know, I do feel, oh shit, I'm loosening this thing up. Yeah, I wanted to, you know, make the video in my car, somewhere, you know, in a somewhat quiet environment, as opposed to, you know, making the video like, at my apartment where I'm gonna be all, you know, like fucking in people's shit and stuff. I'm not saying I'm not gonna make videos in my apartment or whatever. I mean, maybe that's what my lower level neighbor is doing, like just like talking into a webcam or something like that. I mean, how cool would that be if he was actually like I mean, if he was any type of YouTuber, he'd probably be like a Republican, like, I don't know, what are the words? I mean, these fucking conservative. Yeah. Like, where do these fucking words come from, man? Like libtard and like fucking, you know, just like shit like that. I mean, so, I mean, yeah, it's like, that's, I mean, I mean, I wouldn't mind talking about like libtard politics. I mean, like, yeah, like I understand. And then especially just after that movie, like the Black Panther coming out, like how there was such like, all right, what I saw, I basically just seen this video like on Facebook of like an African president of some country, or just like an African king, or I don't know, probably had like a couple wives and shit like that, just like some African ruler or something. And he was saying like, you know, we don't want, like American forces. We don't want help anymore, basically. So, I mean, I could see how, from a conservative standpoint, like it would be better to, like this whole conservative standpoint where like, you know, just humans should just live in their own fucking tribes in these fucking gated countries and just like fucking be slaves to this fucking huge ass, like gigantic fucking bubble filled with like 8 families that control 93% of the world's fucking income. I mean, that just makes no fucking sense to me at all. Like we should just, you know, be their fucking players, basically. Like they're the fucking coaches and we should just be their players, or they're the fucking, like to make a metaphor, like they're the fucking rulers or the kings and we're the fucking gladiators, like the slaves that have to either like watch the fucking, gladiator games or participate in it. And I just don't see that as like a fucking, like, I don't see that as anything like real. It doesn't seem like anything, it just seems like we should mitigate to the people that are in need and all of this stuff, like that, the people that actually don't have any help or any guidance at all. I mean, it doesn't seem to me like the people in Africa, well, my point was going to be like, well, this whole, this whole other point of like the Black Panther movie coming out and everything, and how there is so much guidance and force in the, I guess, African, community, if you will. I don't really consider myself like, I don't really say like I'm European. I mean, I would say I'm, American. So therefore I would prefer saying African Americans. I mean, as opposed to black. I mean, cause I'm not going to really call myself white ever. In any given situation. I don't really say I'm white. I mean, I have, I guess like white, innate ethics that kind of control me and propel me to, you know, just be this like fucking obliging bitch that just wants to fucking, you know, whatever, serve my country or do whatever, like for the fucking sake of the fucking red, white, and blue. For some reason, but I mean, that's not what defines me. But what I'm saying with like this whole, like libtard fucking, tactic of like how like, yeah, like, well, our only solution is just to go give all of the African American or all of the men in Africa, like, or just push, you know, fucking abortions and, you know, vasectomies and all that shit on African communities, since I mean, they're just overpopulating the world and all of this, you know, like sarcastic dribble I could use to just explain how like the world is fucked. And I mean, you can say like the world is fucked in other ways, like how, you know, we're fucking slaughtering 50 billion fucking animals, you know, a year, and how like all of this stuff is wrong with our country. But I mean, you don't really want to like talk about what's wrong with our country. You just want to point out, you know, what the elites, I mean, not even the elites, like just the rich people. I mean, just the bankers and, you know, these like the Queen of England. Like, what is this? Like, where did all this BS come from? Where did all of this stuff come from? Like, did it really just like rain down from the sky, and all of a sudden, you know, we're just stuck in some situation that we can't get out of? Like, we can't get out of capitalism without being Marxist, fascist, transhumanite, just fucking weirdos. You know, like, I mean, that's not really anything to argue against. Like, we either are or we aren't, you know, going towards some doom, apocalyptic, or heavenly, sanctified, you know, fortified, place. So, I mean, the arguments aren't really in conjunction with each other. I mean, they're just like, you know, two sides of they're just like a tree, you know, that I'm looking at that has one big trunk at the bottom and then two larger trunks that branch off. You know, a lot of trees do that. You know, it's not all like Or you could look at a banyan tree, you know, like those 1,000-year-old banyan trees that just have one huge trunk. And then all of these branches just keep branching and branching and branching. And, you know, it's like some big bang or something like that. I mean, I'm not saying we should solely, invest in what we learned in public education. I mean, do they even like teach? They don't even teach, evolution in private schools. So, I mean, yeah, private schools and all that stuff just isn't really an argument to me, because the people that aren't getting even public school, or like don't even have access to public schools, realistically, like your brother is starving to death, your sister is starving to death. Like I'm talking about in Africa. I mean, the situation in Africa, they say, is 30,000. I mean, the last time I checked was 30,000 children, like, boys and girls are starving to death every single day. So, I mean, if that's the situation in like your neighboring country, and you're, you know, trying to tell me that we have to be arguing about, you know, public school, private school. So I just don't know how you can, I don't know if it's called like secularism, or just like relativism, or realism, or whatever it is, like when you're just dealing with like the entire world, you know, all that stuff. So I can see why someone would want to just like say, like, let's just, you know, try to have this philosophical conversation at a private level. I mean, yeah, that's great, but how can you make anything private, so private, and, you know, as to, you know, sanctify, you know, guns and oil and drugs, which is, the big pusher of, status quo and public opinions, like, you know, gun reformation or gun laws being reformed. And, I heard something about like, so a lot of vegans will say, you know, we don't want to increase our carbon footprint. And so to eliminate that argument, I don't know what else to call them other than just the elites. I mean, they are the elites, but then, you know, there's the elites of the elite. And like, there's, you know, owners of each football team, there's a commissioner of the NFL. You know, and then there's somebody who started the NFL, obviously, but that's just, you know, the tree trunk. I mean, the tree trunk, you know, nobody really cares about the tree trunk. They just, you know, like to see like a willow tree. They don't really care about the tree trunk. They just like to see all the branches, and the flower and what's blooming off of the branches. So, I mean, it's not always, you know, just everything coming up from the surface, from like the core of our spherical earth. I mean, it like, yeah, you know, you want people out there that just have this fucking, you know, that's what I don't like. That's what I don't get about like conservative politics, because conservative politics really will like say, like, they'll jump from both ends of the spectrum, just like I'm doing right now. But, you know, they claim to be like a Christian conservative or something, basically just like an American citizen that uses religion as a tool to either network or do something to like further their health, or, you know, spirituality. I mean, I don't even want to say spirituality, but like emotional relationships and stuff like that. Like, instead of, saying like, well, I'm not going to be like mentally challenged or have like a mental disorder and try to treat myself like that. I'm just going to, you know, go to church and listen to the pastor, and then find relationships with other people that are just going to inevitably make my life better. Just as the other, mental health side would do, but these people would charge me, and the church is just going to ask me to donate, you know. So, I mean, in the end, like, we're all just, you know, donating our time towards something that is, it's almost like a bottomless, solution, like a bottomless, like this society was literally built on a bottomless foundation, or a foundation, you know, like on the fucking beach, and, you know, like there's a fucking tsunami coming or some shit. Like, it's just like, so it's just like, so it's just so irrelevant to, have some of these conversations without being, you know, like caught up in yourself and what's going on in your own self and adventuring through, your own neural canals and all of that stuff. I mean, not to be like super philosophical or, all that shit, but I mean, when you're not like, I mean, I don't get why people for so long have been conditioned. I mean, I get why, but like being millennials and having all this access to the fucking internet or YouTube or whatever it is, like I really don't understand how someone, you know, can be conditioned with the guise of religion for so long, even believing in it, and then coming to the conclusion where I'm just going to have to like use this as a tool to go to church, to meet people, to meet my wife, to have a family, but not consider, not even like condone fucking veganism, like totally be like anti-veganism and all this shit. I mean, you just have to be so fucking, cause I'm talking about like a family member here. Like I mean, obviously being like really young, like sort of immature and, you know, a teenager and all that shit, like plays a major role in why you are really so close-minded, or a lot of people are so close-minded as to just say, well, religion doesn't have ism at the end of it, and Bob Marley taught me you gotta stay away from the isms and the schisms, the isms and schisms, and, you know, could you be love? So you just gotta like totally out, you know, something that has to do with other sentient life. I mean, by now, like, if you haven't heard of the word sentient, I mean, even people who nowadays would be considered unconscious folk or rednecks or frickin' gangbangers or something, like saying the word, you know, like saying sentient or like, you know, saying like, it's just fucking, it's simple, basic morality, but like the whole moral argument only matters when it comes to humans. And I've noticed that in social groups or social settings, such as, like addiction, counseling and all of this shit. You know, like they always want to leave, humanity on a limb. Like everybody's out to leave humanity dangling by a fucking string, when really that's all it is. It's just humanity dangling by like a fucking string. Like there's no reason or like discourse in your mind that would tell you otherwise, unless you think you're going to heaven or something like that. I mean, I'm not against like having a belief in the afterlife per se, but it's just not relative to my life or your life or anybody else's life for that matter, because even religious folk will tell you like the science is backed up by laws, just like there's laws in the Bible or whatever religious text you read. I mean, like if you read, the Tao or whatever it's called, the Tao Te Ching or the Tao Te Ching or whatever, the Tao Te Ching. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's just like every single thing that's said in that is just like a law. Like, you know, there's grass and there are trees and there are bees and there are butterflies, and it's just like, it's like basically the Tao Te Ching, or however you say it, was just basically like wisdom from Ecclesiastes or King Solomon or whatever it was, like Ecclesiastes or Psalms or Proverbs or something like that. I mean, just, it had a lot more to do with nature. Like it had a lot more to do with like probably what Jesus was trying to talk about, like asceticism and living in nature and, you know, surviving and fasting and all of this stuff, which is pretty much just when, you know, we meet our maker. Like, do I really look at a concept, like dementia or Alzheimer's? Like, do I see that as something like totally and completely irrelevant? Like, I really don't. Like, I really think, you know, there should be more of a basis behind science than just giving somebody, you know, a pill or a surgery, you know, something like that. But that is impossible. That is impossible, because I guess what we learn in the education system is that there's just all these theories and then there's laws. I mean, that's pretty much what I've come up with so far. I mean, I've only been like educated like 13 and a half years or something like that, but I mean, it was a pretty good 13 and a half years. I met a lot more cool people than I learned, like relevant than learned relevant education, just to say that in my like completely like redneck rhetoric, because I'm such a fucking whatever. But no, like I don't really see I don't really see how, like, you know, any of this is supposed to play a part in the future. I mean, especially if by now we're not okay. So like you want to talk about like space and like talking about like space or exploring space. Like I don't see how we should really be having it. Having that conversation anymore. I mean, I saw this video of a great YouTuber who ended up, unfortunately committing suicide. Gone too soon. The good definitely die young, but like, he was such a great YouTuber and he had made this video, or maybe he was, doing commentary on it or something like that. You know, just to throw something out there. I mean, his name was Jordan Womble. I can't really remember exactly what he was, you know, what was going on with him or what his names were or something like that. Maybe he was changing his channel's names, but he, you know, definitely still be relevant today. It was like, you know, when this big time, like Showtime was with like the 13th Son. And I don't know how many baby boomers or people in their 30s and 40s at the time were getting caught up with that stuff, unless they were in like what is now known as the conscious community, or sort of like African American like dialogues and stuff like that. That's kind of what I was involved in, because I was heavily involved in hip hop and smoking weed and Dr. Dre and the Chronic and Snoop Dogg, all that stuff. But then I had the other side of me where I was like, all I wanted to do was psychedelics, and, you know, cigarettes weren't cool, and there's gotta be another way. Like, there's just gotta be another way. Like, all of this is happening for something, you know, like Black Power is happening, and fruits and vegetables are banging. Like, I don't care what anybody else says. And that was just like the message for, you know, like 2012, going into like the Mayan calendar and the end of time, or all this shit. You know, when like the world was supposed to end, and bollocks, I don't know, man. But like, you know, like these conversations basically just got to go somewhere. For me, at least. Like I remember I made a YouTube video in 2011. I mean, I could have just like kept my, you know, first channel I ever made up, but I just had such a, shitty outlook on myself, like reputation wise. And like, by the way, like I'll just come out and say it directly. Like, there's no way if I was seeking medical advice, or if I was seeking advice from, you know, like doctors and psychologists and therapists and all that stuff, like on a regular basis, there's no way I would be as heavily involved as I am into YouTube and, you know, things that actually matter or make a difference in my life. I mean, or I wouldn't be having thoughts like, you know, we should just talk about how fucked over we're getting, or how overly abundantly fucked we are and have been in this current system. And not to say that there's no hope, because there's small glimpses of hope throughout our daily lives, or days, or hours, or minutes, or seconds. But I mean, a lot of people aren't even like human beings, children, aren't even getting the chance to like understand this stuff. And then we can't even have, I guess you would say, like I mean, I looked up the definition of rational, and yeah, all I could really, I mean, all right, maybe it is relevant. Like, if, you know, people people were making money like this, you know, even the richest of the richest were still way richer than everybody else. Like, it was just like, it just went into this this like peak of exactly how like the system today works, or how much money is actually involved in our system. So, like, how much money is being circulated in our system, like throughout the world, that controls, you know, not only who lives and who dies, but, you know, what animals are allowed, or what animals are considered property, and all. I mean, basically all animal. Yeah, what animals are considered property, what property is allowed to be, what property is allowed to have like war and famine, and, you know, like all this shit, man. Maybe there is more to Black Panther, the movie, that everybody can relate to, not just the black community, but everybody. I mean, there is something, because I was just thinking about moving to Portland to just be with vegans, like, because it's I mean, probably, if not the best, one of the best cities to move to if you're vegan. And then it was like New York and Seattle and LA and like, I think Austin. So yeah, like, there's some, you know, places around where, you know, I could just go move to and try to like engage in conversations with people. But I mean, at the end of I mean, it's not even at like the end of the day, because it really shouldn't be put as like, we shouldn't just throw away, you know, our minds, like these abstract ideas, just for something as simple as like, well, we're all just gonna fall asleep, and, you know, then there's rest, and that's it. Like, I mean, there's got to be some black comedy to what I'm saying. I mean, that's kind of more what I'm attracted to. Well, not attracted to, but like what I gravitate towards. Like, I enjoy black comedy more than the comedy we have today, which is all just like politically correct bullshit, or pointing out political correctness. Like, I just think it's kind of sick and degenerative. Like, I mean, there's almost nothing more degenerative than something without comedy. Like, whether it's actual comedy, or, I mean, because at least if you're trying to be funny, like, yeah, that's cool, because, you know, you're trying to be funny, like, you're actually putting in an effort to be funny. But that's just not me. I'm not really gonna put an effort in to be funny. Like, I'm just gonna point out the obvious, and it's gonna end up being funny, because, like, yeah, like, you know, the system is fucked and the people are fucked and all of this shit. But, like, I mean, there's better things to come. So, yeah, there's better things to come.